and still in studio, Ruth Wasserman, Lande, the former Deputy Ambassador to Egypt and an Arab affairs expert. And Ruth, when you hear that kind of rhetoric, when we know how volatile the situation in the region is right now, talk us through the impact political players can have right now on events that are unfolding.
I think very, very important to really disallow politicians on both sides, whether it's the religious nationalistic group on the Jewish side and or Arab MKs on the left side of the map, to really come to the contested area and really heat up rather than calm down the situation. There is absolutely no need to fire up the emotions any more than they are already fired up. In fact, it is highly irresponsible for any politician to go and speak about any antagonism in the ground or on the actual spot where we are talking, because it is, as you said, so volatile. Things need to be very clear. The IDF needs to respond very clearly to rocket throwing. There is absolutely no question about it. No sovereign state can stand this kind of attack on civilian population, and there needs to be no mistake about that on the one hand. And yet, politicians speaking up against this side or the other side are absolutely of no avail or help. One more thing I'd like to tell you, Benita. Where are the religious leaders? Where is the interfaith dialogue? Where are the local leadership on both sides standing up and saying, despite all difficulties, we want to live together, we do live together, we will prosper together. We need to lower down the flames. We need the leadership to speak out in that sense. Let's put politics aside. The responsibility is on our shoulders, the leadership shoulders, local, religious, national, on all sides. And it's key right now.
We are also seeing images on our screen right now, Ruth, of what looks like a fire that is emanating in parts of the old city of Jerusalem. It looks like we can see it is very close to the scene that we're talking about there in the old city, and we will be finding out details from our team on the ground exactly what is unfolding there right now. Do you get a sense, Ruth, of a potential escalation happening? We're hearing right now that another red alert is actually being heard in certain parts as we speak. What are your concerns right now for people who are in this region at the moment?
I think that, as I said, the leadership has a very significant role. It needs to lower down the flames. The army needs to do what the army needs to do. But the actual political leadership needs to de-escalate quickly. Our friends in the region have also joined in the voices stating that we need to de-escalate the situation. Doesn't matter at the moment who's right and wrong. We need to quickly de-escalate the situation. Am I concerned? On the one hand, yes, I am. On the other hand, I am absolutely certain that the Israeli authorities shall bring stability back to the lives of the inhabitants in Jerusalem, please God, soon, on both sides.
Well, certainly everybody will be hoping for that. But as we are speaking now, in the past few moments, 2 red alert. That means there's 2 sirens have gone off on Israel's southern communities, warning of possible incoming projectiles and or rockets. Of course, our team on the ground will bring us updates. Right now, though, we're going to our correspondent, Pierre Kloschendler. He's at Damascus Gate in Jerusalem's Old City. And Pierre, just a short while ago, we heard Islamic Jihad, the militant group, is threatening to target Tel Aviv at 9 o'clock Israel time. That's around 40 minutes from now. What's the latest you're hearing there?
after the breaking of the fast, basically. And I don't know. It's very difficult to know, and I don't think that any of the Palestinians here know what will happen, but they're just like us, getting the alerts on their own cell phones and checking. As Nassib Safadi can show you, one Palestinian checking his cell phone, well, he stopped already. It's very difficult to know, but they're very pro-reactive. So if there is such a rocket on Tel Aviv, I'm sure you will be hearing a clamor here in Jerusalem from the Palestinians who are here around the old city or inside the old city, at the Haram al-Sharif, Al-Aqsa Mosque, or just in Damascus Gate, because at 6 o'clock this evening, when the siren sounded and we heard the loud explosions in the vicinity of Jerusalem of rockets falling on villages around Jerusalem or being intercepted, there was a clamor here, clamor of rejoicement by the Palestinians. They praised Muhammad Def, the leader of the armed branch of Hamas, Izzadin al-Qassam. They said God is greatest, and this is what we will be probably hearing here. And this eruption usually is accompanied by a great load of tension, and the police immediately starts dispersing the crowds with stun grenades and with the skunk liquid that the water cannon truck is spraying on the city, on the street around the Damascus Gate. And basically we're going to have probably much more scuffles during the night. The night is going to be very long, Benita.
To that exact point, Pierre, give us a sense of the police and security presence you are witnessing. You have been covering the tensions in this area in recent weeks. Is there an intensified reaction to the latest developments in terms of visible security right now?
I would say that the police is everywhere, in uniform and also in civil clothes. We were witness before 6 p.m. Of an action by an undercover unit of the police, of the Israeli police, who arrested a Palestinian who allegedly spread pepper gas on an Israeli. And immediately these undercover agents, including female agents, spotted the man, came to him, arrested him with their gun drawn in order to not be trampled by the crowd who was barely a few inches away from them. They drew their gun and they evacuated this man who was arrested, and as a result, of course, there were a few minutes of tension, but the action was very quick, and within minutes the place was clear again until the next time.
Thank you so much. Correspondent Pierre Kloschendler live at Damascus Gate in Jerusalem's Old City. And of course, we'll be getting more updates in the coming hours from our team on the ground. Still in studio with me right now, Ruth, Wasserman, Lande. And Ruth, you have been intricately involved in Arab affairs within this region. And I wonder if you could break down the significance of what we are seeing in recent days, and specifically today on the Temple Mount. We saw smoke, a potential fire just a short while ago on our screens, but we also saw heavy-handed clashes between people, various ages. It was awful to watch, no matter what anyone's political intentions are. To see that kind of anger at a site that is so important to different religions is heartbreaking.
Absolutely heartbreaking, Benita. Whoever cares about Israel, about the region, it is absolutely heartbreaking. I'd like to say that the vast majority of the people currently fighting, throwing stones, throwing and using all kinds of weaponry from within the Al-Aqsa Mosque are not mostly Arab Israelis from within Israel. The vast majority are either Palestinians or East Jerusalemites that have come and are incentivized by Hamas to really take an extreme stance, position, and create provocations against the police found in the site, throwing stones, etc. Of course, the international media does not always portray it in that manner. And then the question is, what does one do? What does one do Does one simply go back and allow this instability to furnace itself into a greater fire, or does one clash with the clashes and that furnace increases still further? It's almost a no-win situation, a lose-lose situation, which is precisely the incentive that Hamas is searching for. A kind of an excuse to fire up the situation region-wide. Now the question is, again, who is instigating this instability and who has something to really gain from this instability? And the question is it an inside Arab force or an outside force which is not necessarily Arab? And even though there are Arab Israelis from within Israel and demonstrations from within the internal population supporting this, because Al-Aqsa is a very sensitive topic, and there are certain groups holding the Palestinian flag and demonstrated from within Israel, they are still the minority, and the instigating force is still one on the outside and not from within. And that is why this instability very clearly is an instability which is on the regional level and not on the local level. The idea is to destabilize the region, including Egypt, including Lebanon, including Jordan, including Syria, and not only Israel and the very narrow radius in which we are found. That's why there are vested interests of Jordan and Egypt and other countries, like-minded countries like the UAE, for example. And that is all despite the sanctity and importance of the Al-Aqsa Mosque for Islam in general, which I believe Israel holds very much in awe and with respect, despite the very challenging situation.
It brings me to another point, which is in terms of the region. We know, of course, it's around 9 months since the signing of the Abraham Accords. You made mention of the UAE and, of course, Bahrain, and comments that came through in recent days about the clashes in East Jerusalem. Talk us through the significance of the responses out of Israel's new allies right now, as we're seeing these kind of red alert sirens still sounding as we speak in parts of the southern communities right now.
So let's divide this question. First of all, as I said, there is a vested interest of other like-minded countries. Al-Aqsa is a symbol for all Muslims throughout the world. And as such, the UAE, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, and other countries have a say in the matter. They feel ownership over the situation. That is the religious aspect. And they called out to their newly found friends to Israel to lower the flames. That is legitimate, completely. That is on the one level. On the geostrategic level, there is a vested interest, and I make it clear, despite this rhetoric, and despite what is being said to their publics, especially on the part of Jordan and Egypt, there is a vested interest of the leaderships of those countries to maintain stability. There is absolutely a lose-lose situation if this situation at the moment continues. And therefore, there needs to be a cooperation, both declarative and de facto, of all responsible leaders in the area, calling people to calm down. Step off the accelerators, particularly those like the Hamas, like Hezbollah, and like those who are standing behind them, which is Iran.
Ruth, stay with us. We've got lots more to unpack about what's happening, not only the reaction from across the Middle East, but of course what's happening right now on the